Okay, so you guys have sent in some really interesting stuff about how sitting all the time might be messing with our brains, like maybe even linked to dementia,
Yeah, it's a pretty hot topic these days, and for good reason.
right? So we're gonna like dive deep into this and pull out like the most important bits from all the articles and studies you sent.
Exactly. We want to give you the need-to-know info about how all this inactivity could be upping our chances of dementia and what we can do about it.
Exactly. And one thing that like immediately jumped out at me from all this material was this idea of Alzheimer's being called like type 3 diabetes.
Oh yeah, that's a fascinating area. A lot of researchers are looking into the link between metabolic disorders and cognitive decline.
Yeah, so our goal here is to like really break down how a lack of movement could be affecting our brain health and crucially like what you can actually do about it without like getting lost in all the super complicated science.
Right, we want to distill it down to what's really important and actionable.
Totally. So let's start with like the basics. What happens in our bodies and brains when we spend like hours and hours just sitting?
Well, it's not just about feeling stiff.
Right. It's got to be more than that, right?
Yeah, the research is showing some pretty significant effects of extended sitting on our brains, and one of the major ones is reduced blood flow.
Okay, so when we're sitting for a long time, our circulation basically slows down.
Exactly. And that's a problem because the brain is like this super active organ that needs a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients, and that all comes from the blood.
So that delivery system is like compromised, then that's got to affect how well our brains work.
It's like trying to run a high-performance engine on fumes. You're not going to get optimal performance.
Right. And this reduced blood flow can even cause the hippocampus to shrink.
Yeah, the hippocampus is like the memory center of the brain, and if it's not getting enough blood flow, it can actually shrink, which is a big deal when it comes to memory problems.
Wow. So less blood flow means less support for the parts of our brains that help us form memories.
Exactly, and it's not just about reduced blood flow, there's also the issue of inflammation.
Okay, so how does sitting too much cause inflammation?
Well, it seems that chronic sedentary behavior, like sitting for hours on end, is linked to this low-grade inflammation throughout the body.
Like a constant simmering.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the brain isn't protected from that inflammation.
So this inflammation can actually damage brain tissue.
Yeah, and that damage can contribute to neurodegeneration, which is the progressive loss of brain cells, basically.
So it's like a slow chipping away at the brain's building blocks.
That's a good way to put it. And to make matters worse, prolonged sitting is also linked to high blood pressure and a higher risk of stroke.
And those are both terrible for the brain, right?
Oh, yeah. They can further damage blood vessels in the brain, which can increase the likelihood of vascular dementia.
Wow, it's like a domino effect.
It really is.
Or-
Reduced blood flow weakens the brain, inflammation damages it, and vascular issues compromise its infrastructure.
Right, and this brings us back to that type 3 diabetes idea we talked about earlier.
Yeah, that's where this idea of insulin resistance comes into play.
Okay, so let's break that down. What exactly is insulin resistance and how does it affect the brain?
So insulin is this hormone that helps our cells absorb glucose from the blood, which is the primary fuel source for our bodies and brains.
Right.
But when you have insulin resistance, your cells become less responsive to insulin, so they can't take in glucose as easily.
So the glucose is like knocking on the door, but nobody's answering.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, and this can happen throughout the body, including in the brain.
So even if we're managing our blood sugar overall, our brains might still be starving for energy.
That's right, and the brain is a real energy hog. It uses about 20% of our body's glucose, even though it only makes up about 2% of our body weight.
Wow. So if the brain can't get enough glucose, it's going to have a hard time functioning properly.
Exactly, and that can lead to all sorts of problems, including cognitive decline.
And that's where this term type 3 diabetes comes in, right?
Yeah, it's a way of highlighting the link between insulin resistance in the brain and Alzheimer's disease.
So there are actual similarities in how the brain is affected in both type 2 diabetes and Alzheimer's.
Researchers have found that, yeah, there are.
That's really interesting. And to add insult to injury, it seems like insulin resistance can also trigger inflammation, which we know is bad for the brain.
Right, it's like a double whammy.
Okay, so we're talking about reduced blood flow inflammation and now insulin resistance, all potentially caused or worsened by sitting too much.
Right, and here's the kicker. Even if you exercise regularly, it might not completely undo the damage of sitting for long periods.
Wait, really? So even if I'm hitting the gym a few times a week, if I'm sitting at a desk all day, it's still bad for my brain?
It seems that way. Yeah, exercise is definitely important, but it's not a magic bullet.
So how does that work? If we're exercising, Why isn't that enough to counteract all the negative effects of sitting?
Well, it seems that prolonged sitting can actually disrupt our metabolic balance, which in turn can lead to insulin resistance.
So it's like our bodies get used to being inactive, and then it's harder for them to switch gears even when we do exercise.
Kind of, yeah. And then there's the issue of muscle loss.
Sarcopenia, right?
Exactly.
And how does that tie into all of this?
Well, our muscles play a really important role in regulating blood sugar and supporting circulation.
They're like little metabolic engines.
That's a good way to put it. And when we lose muscle mass due to inactivity, all of those functions become less efficient.
So less muscle means less support for the brain.
Exactly. And there's even research suggesting that losing muscle mass as we age is directly linked to an increased risk of cognitive decline.
Wow. So it's not just about the immediate effect of sitting, it's also about these longer-term changes in our metabolism and muscle mass.
Exactly. And all of these factors together, the reduced blood flow, the inflammation, the metabolic dysfunction, they create an environment in the body that's basically ripe for cognitive decline.
It's like they're all teaming up to make our brains more vulnerable.
It sounds pretty grim. I
Yeah.
know, but the good news is that there are things we can do about it.
Okay, good, because I was starting to get a little depressed.
I hear you, but there are concrete steps you can take to protect your brain health.
So what can we do? What are some practical things that people listening can start doing today to combat all this?
One of the simplest things is to just break up those long periods of sitting.
Like just stand up and stretch every once in a while.
Yeah, exactly. Even just standing up for a minute or two every half hour can make a big difference.
It's like hitting the reset button on your body.
Yeah, exactly. And another really important thing is strength training.
Okay, so lifting weights or doing body weight exercises.
Yeah, anything that helps you build and maintain muscle mass.
Because stronger muscles mean a healthier metabolism and better blood flow to the brain.
That's right. And another thing you can do is to start monitoring your blood sugar and blood pressure.
So get regular checkups or use a home monitor.
Both are good options. The key is to be proactive and catch any potential problems early on.
Got it. And then there's sleep. We hear all the time about how important sleep is for overall health, but it sounds like it's especially crucial for brain health.
Yeah, sleep is when the brain does all of its repair and maintenance work.
So if we're not getting enough sleep, our brains aren't getting the downtime they need to function properly.
That's right.
And finally, the research you sent also mentioned using smart health tools.
Yeah, things like fitness trackers and heart rate monitors can be really helpful for staying motivated and tracking your progress.
It's like having a little coach on your wrist.
Exactly.
So it sounds like we need to be taking a multi-pronged approach here, breaking up sitting time, strength training, monitoring our health, getting enough sleep, and maybe even using some technology to help us along the way.
You got it. It's all about making those small changes that can have a big impact on our long-term brain health.
Right, and this idea of type 3 diabetes really drives home the point that insulin resistance isn't just something to worry about for our bodies in general. It can directly affect our brains.
Absolutely. And the research is showing us more and more clearly that how we live our lives has a huge impact on our brain health.
So being physically active and taking care of our metabolic health, it's like investing in a healthier brain for the future.
Exactly. It's about taking those proactive steps now to protect your cognitive function down the road.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. I feel like I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
Me too. It's amazing how much we're learning about the brain and how it's affected by our lifestyle choices.
And speaking of lifestyle choices, here's a challenge for everyone listening right now. Think about one small thing you can do immediately after you finish listening to this to get moving. Maybe it's standing up while you work or taking a quick walk around the block. What's one little action you can take right now to start investing in a healthier brain for your future?
I like that challenge. It's all about those small steps that add up over time.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe those small steps will help us all avoid becoming couch potatoes with mushy brains.
I think that's a goal we can all get behind.
Absolutely.
Mm.
All right. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.